Good afternoon. This is our usual time to update our knowledge. And we have today's webinar is done in West Coast, Capitola, one of our branch here in California. So I'm here in the office and here we are and talking about knowledge, spreading the wisdom so you can do your taxes right. So let me share screen with you folks. And you have seen this screen many times if you know our webinar. And here we go. And this is our YouTube channel. And come to subscribe to our channel. That would give you the first-hand knowledge of what we talk about, upcoming time. So we do these webinars on Tuesday, and we also do it in Chinese language and the Spanish language in the weekday. And on Saturday afternoon, it is my time again to spend with you. So Saturday is always a little longer session. Here you can tell what we talked about, right? Ways to get paid through your own business. We just finished that last time. Today we are going to talk about take spouse on a business trip. And yes, take a spouse to business trip, tax deductible or not. And this is our topic today. Let me share my slides that I prepared for you for this afternoon. And of course, when you take your spouse to a business trip and you are thinking all of the expenses that should be deducted, is that real? Is that true? How do we do that? And what is the best way to handle it? And what should I know in that situation? So that's what we're doing. And of course, about our firm, and you have to know about Community CPA before you come online to watch our webinars, right? So we have more than 26 years practice history, and we have team members. Collectively, we speak 10 different languages. So you can just imagine it's a little United Nation, right? That's kind of how I see our firm. And we serve more than 10,000 clients, and we have 4 branches. And as you know, I'm in California. So we have Iowa, 2 branches, Minnesota, Bloomington, we have 1 branch, and California, Capitola. And we are now opening Houston, Texas branch in June of 2024. And I served on Federal Advisory Committee to IRS for 3 years. So those are proud years that I have, right? To really participate in getting IRS better and knowing what our taxpayers' needs are. And it is a great window for me to understand how IRS operate as well. And it gains a lot of respect for that big organization. And I also published 2 books already, 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. It is all about our clients, my clients. And of course, their name, their real identity is not in the book, but it's a story about them, about me, and just kind of walk you through how people start a business, how people grow their business. No responsibility disclaimer, absolutely important because this is a free webinar. And if you got some light bulbs going off in your mind, in your head, and make sure you double, triple, quadruple check the knowledge. If you're just not sure after so many times doing internet Googles, and you can always retain us to service you, right? We obviously welcome new client, and you can come to us. We take care of you. Now, travel costs for small business owners. So the reason we brought this up because right now is the tax season and the people are talking about 2023 expense. So client goes, hey, can I deduct I went to Hawaii for a conference with my spouse. Can I deduct all of our expense? So that is a simple question, but it has so much we need to say before we decide yes or no, right? So the reality is that we are travel more. We do, right? Pandemic's over. 2022, there was already like the market, the research and the market company, they did this report and it's saying that there is 665.3 billion dollars in 2022 spent on traveling, and they're thinking of another 300 billion will be spent every year extra for up to 2030. So that's a phenomenal, and you don't get away from it. I don't get away from it, and we just travel more because I am more liberated to go somewhere. And I go to Bloomington. Next thing I go to Houston. So those are business travels, right? So travel cost for us is real, and is you know is real for you because you're the business owner. But what about your spouse? So is your spouse a employee? So the rules for deducting a spouse's travel cost is very restrictive. I want you to know that it's hard. When you get audited, that is what the auditor gonna zoom in and figuring out how you spend your money. Where is this expense come from? That look like facial for your spouse. So, did you take your spouse with you? Yes. Is she your employee? No. And then that's not a business expense, right? So, first of all, to qualify for deduction, your spouse must be your employee. Did you hear that? That means your spouse must be receiving a W 2 from you. This means you cannot deduct travel cost of your spouse, even if, because he or she is not your employee. So, even if he or she emotionally support you, you can't function when you don't see his or her lovely face. Sorry, you can't deduct her expense or his expense. And his or her presence has a bona fide business purpose. Um, you know, like my spouse speaks Spanish, and I meet a Spanish client, and even though she's not my employee, I want to deduct her expense. That is a bona fide business purpose. We understand, but cannot deduct because it's incidental. It is a temporary incidental, and it is a plus, but it's not a necessity. So that's how they're measuring that. Now, let's look at more. In most cases, spouses' participation in social functions, like being a host or hostess, and it isn't enough to establish a business purpose. Okay. And if his or her purpose is to establish general goodwill for customer and associate, it is usually not sufficient to justify your deduction. If there is a vacation element to the trip, it will even be more difficult to establish a business purpose for him or her, and present on this business trip. But just not an employee, and you know, with a business with a vacation element in it, it's just so easy to see that to be a pleasure, not a business, right? On the other hand, a bona fide business purpose exists if your spouse's presence is necessary to care for a serious medical condition that you have. I had a client had a business trip with the spouse, and normally the spouse's expenses were not deducted, but one of the trip, it was actually overseas trip, is more expensive, and that one got deducted. You know why? Because my client and suffered a condition uh, um, called vertigo. And so he suffered condition of vertigo before he went on the trip. So, but the trip still has to happen because everything was already scheduled. So the spouse went on to take care of uh, the business owner. So because that is a medical condition, without that, and he would not function. So the spouse can be deducted. So does that make sense? Not employee, but with a critical reason to exist, to be there, then it is deductible. So with that said, let's look at what can be deducted, right? And you will say that, okay, Ying, and you said all of these, and my spouse is an employee. I should be able to deduct all of it. What are they? So if your spouse's travel satisfies those requirements, right? So we're gonna do this normal business travel deduction. Like away from home, and you should be able to deduct. So those includes cost of transportation, meals, lodging, hotels, right? And the incidental costs such as dry cleaning and the phone calls, right? And you can think of more. Your medical bills. When you are traveling, you're sick, the medical bills is also deductible. So those are the things you want to know. What can be deducted as a normal business travel expense? Now, what if your spouse isn't a employee? Just not employee, okay? If she's an employee, he's employee, and we go together, and it's just gonna be deducted because, she's not acting as a host, and she's part of the marketing team, and he's not acting as a driver because he has other jobs that he needs to do. So those are easy to deal with. What about your spouse is not employee, but here you go, and you need to know that how to deduct this person's expense, right? It's not like you spend $200 on the hotel and then 50% is your spouse, so you only can deduct 100. The other 100 is not deductible. No, the rules is not like that. The rule doesn't require you to allocate 50% of your travel cost to your spouse, to your non-employee spouse. No, it didn't require you to that. And you only need to allocate the additional cost you have incurred for your non-employee spouse. So I have an example here. Many hotels cost a single room, maybe a single room versus a two people room is not exactly double, right? A single room maybe $150 a night. The couple's room maybe 200. So the difference is that $50. So that $50 that should not be claimed as a business expense. So that is what we mean by not allocating 50% of your travel expense to your spouse. We just ask you to allocate the additional cost that you incurred for your spouse. In other words, you can write off the cost of what you would have paid traveling alone to to prove your deduction. Ask the hotel for a room rate schedule. Show the single rate versus the double rate, right? And if you drive your own car or rent one, the whole cost will be fully deductible, even if your spouse is tagged along and even your kids. Of course, if public transportation is used, it's different story because you buy for each person, so your spouse's share not going to come in, right? So those are the things when you consider traveling with spouse, and consider first of all, employee or not employee. If it is employee and for business reason, then no question asked, and you would deduct all of your expense. But what if your spouse and you are your spouse is an employee, but you tag along a couple kiddos with you? Same thing, right? So you just want to carve out the kiddos expense. They are not deductible. But what if your spouse is not employee at all, and it's just your silent other body, and not involved with your business, or even involved is very symbolic and not classified as necessary? For example, like the example I said, that your spouse speaks Spanish and you take her with you, and then she translate you when you meet with Hispanic speaking client. So but those does not constitute a deduction for your spouse just because he translated. But I would questioning you, if your spouse helping you so much, even on translation, is there any reason why you don't hire your spouse as your employee? I don't even understand that. So with that said, you know what to do with if you have travel expenses, how you're going to deduct it. And for your spouse, maybe you just make sure that you hire her or him, so you will be traveling together. For businesses, that will be straightforward of a deduction. All right. I think this 30 minutes for us is just to understand, if I take my spouse with me, what do I deduct? Now you know it's not 50-50, even though your spouse is as important as you. And it is actually just that additional cost your spouse have that would make you need to carve that out, not to include that in business expense. All right, and I want to let you know the partners in our firm. I show you this screen because you can get into this screen from our website. When you go into communitycpa.com, there is a tab called appointments. You click the appointment, you'll come over here and you can book our time. And based on our specialties, you see all here, these are all partners. So you can book any one of our time and ask questions, and or there are there are four partners has the 30 minutes free consultation for exploration. So you can actually tap into that to know that we only, one thing we want to mention to you is that we only allow one time free consultation with one partner because we have a very cute client, and go on to just book those free ones and book 3 4 times in a row, and it become a big section of educating. A lot of contents are actually in our YouTube channel, folks. We do a lot of do it yourself kind of webinar, teach you so you can do that yourself, and just make sure that you know how to utilize our resources, and we're here really truly available to you. And this is our YouTube channel, communitycpa.com, and the channel name is called Community CPA, and you can subscribe to our channel. And here you have Catherine at communitycpa.com email. That email will get you to express your interest on what kind of topic you would like to see, so that we can talk for you online. And then there's phone number. We open 6 days a week, folks, not just for the tax season. We open 6 days a week. Our firm for the past 27, 26 years has always been Monday to Saturday. We have never changed our schedule. So we are the professional firm, opens 6 days a week. Yes, I hope that really give you some ideas of how eager we're willing to help you. So I hope to talk to you again. I'll see you on Saturday for another webinar to share more knowledge with you. Bye-bye.